So here we are, four teams down to the Final Four. It's game time now. So along this road to the Final Four, who has made the biggest statement to you in your mind thus far to get here? When you think about UConn and their 30-0 run that they went on right here in front of us, in Boston, NC State with a double-digit win over Duke, who has impressed you the most to get here to this stage?
I think I'm most surprised and impressed with the magic that NC State has created to get here, and what Kevin Keatts has done with this team after they lost their last four regular season games. It's incredible. I think Alabama has been the next surprise for me in that they really weren't a good defensive team all year, but towards the end of this year, and especially in the tournament, Nate Oates has gotten this team to defend. And then the two teams that I think are most impressive coming in, not surprising, but just impressive in terms of how they're playing, are Purdue and UConn. And I think I'd love as a fan just to see the matchup of those two behemoths. And, excuse the pun, it's not just the big guys, but those two teams who have been dominant all year matching in the final would be amazing.
You know better than anyone it can come down to the last shot at the buzzer, but do you feel like it is inevitable, those two on a collision course for each other? Or, is it still, like we see years past, anyone's game here at this point in the tournament?
I think if you're a basketball realist, I think if you look at these matchups, it's inevitable that they meet. But if you're an NCAA basketball tournament fan, we all know that anything can happen. You look back to Jimmy V's NC State team. You look back to the Villanova team in '85 that was an 8 seed, and I think of them knocking off a Memphis team that everybody thought was going to get matched up against Georgetown in '85. And that Georgetown team with Patrick Ewing was as dominant as UConn has been throughout the season, and no one thought Villanova would beat that team. So we know enough about this tournament to know anything can happen. But it would be amazing to see the two teams that have the two best centers in college basketball. And I think Donovan Clingan at UConn has elevated himself to that point where he hasn't done what Zach Edey has done his entire career yet. But I think he's gotten himself to the point right now where he's playing as well as Zach Edey right now. Maybe only for a couple games. Zach Edey's done it for 2 years. But right now, that matchup would be incredible.
It's been mentioned a time or two, I think, over the course of the tournament that no team has gone back-to-back since my Gators back in the day. But how special, I know it's a big if, but let's say UConn pulls it off, how special would that be when you just look at the nature of college basketball right now, the state of college basketball, the turnover from year to year that you see? If they were able to pull this off and repeat, just put that in perspective for us.
Your Gators beat us in the Final Eight in '08.
Had to go there.
'06, so I remember that. I remember that
Corey
squad.
Brewer, yep.
That was a great squad. And what's interesting is they had everybody back the next year, where Danny Hurley has lost Sanogo, Hawkins, and another starter on that team, and maybe made this team a little bit better. We won it in 16, and in 17 we were a #1 seed, and we were trying to repeat. So maybe as much as anybody, I understand the mental energy that it takes to get your team to this point and then to win it. I feel like in 17 we were a 1 seed. We lost in the second round to Wisconsin. I felt like mentally we were just drained from trying to stay at that level for 2 years in a row. And I can see in Danny Hurley's elation to get to the Final Four. I can see the mental fatigue on him. I believe they're deep enough to do it where I think they can overcome the mental fatigue. I believe that he is strong enough mentally to fight them through this. And it's not that they're selfish or getting caught up in the praise, but it is a fight when you have won it and you're defending constantly and everybody's giving you the best game. Everybody's telling you how good you are, to mentally stay focused. So if they did it, it would be incredible, Nick. I really think it really should be celebrated.
I got to say, watching them here at the Garden, I've never seen a practice where the players were so locked in, high energy. You just tell that they have that kind of vibe here, just seeing them up close in Boston. One more question before you go. just eavesdropping on some of your previous interviews there. Take us through the emotions that one team still standing come Monday night is going to experience when they cut down those nets.
There's a couple of emotions. At the time, it is such a high that it is incredible and difficult to explain. You are so elated. You're out there on the court. You're in a basketball dream. You're in front of 90,000 people. There's confetti coming down. You're with your team that you've been through an entire season with, and you're looking back at your history. You're looking at the old coaches, the old players who are there with you. You understand it's emotional. I can feel myself getting emotional thinking about it. There's such a high. You stand up on the podium and all your fans are in the stands and you're on top of the basketball world, which is heaven to you as a player. And then you go back into your locker room and there's just you and your team, and you realize it's a different kind of high. It's a bond you're going to have for life. And it is going to be something you share forever. And I can tell you, years later, I mean, how many years we won in 18? So 6 years later, it is a bond that you stay connected, having gone through that for life. And I know our 85 team at Villanova, they're all still connected for life. It is an incredible feeling.